sure. So let's move on and let's talk about the Penn State class of 2024 here on the BWI live show. We do recruiting on Monday, so I wanted to get a little recruiting flair. And it's the bye week. It's time to check in on all these things. We're checking on the health of the Penn State offense and the defense, and also some highlights from the first half of the season for Penn State's class of 2024 players. I actually want to start with Dejaun Lane and show you this Fitz. We're going to do a little bit of live analysis here. Is he faster than he was last year? This looks like a guy that is guessing less and playing more, and I'm very excited about that with his size.
Yeah, Penn State went down to see him 2 weeks ago. They were very impressed with what he was doing. I will say the highlights that you're pulling here against Boys Latin, I watched that game. Oh boy, the competition gap between Dejaun Lane and everyone else it was something. But yes, he's playing faster. Again, he's a big guy. Like, I don't think we understand how big of a guy he is. He's kind of like that Dakari Nelson mold in 6'2.5", and he's going to continue to get bigger. He does great things in coverage. I'm still on the fence about what he is in 3 years, because I think he's also a guy that is going to, he's pretty rocked up right now, but he's going to add mass. He's going to add mass. And does that mean he's a Sam? I know a lot of people that would like to see that. The only thing is you watch some of his games and he's probably not as physical. And I don't know if that's if that's a mindset that he has, but he does play both ways. He does play a lot and he's better than everyone else. So don't let that guy behind you. But yeah, he does look faster. I don't really have a time off the top of my head, but he's a pretty good player and I'm really excited to see his development. It seems it's the low-hanging fruit to compare him to Dakari Nelson, but that's kind of what the blueprint is going to be. Nelson's going to continue to develop. I think Lane is going to see a jump in competition. He's playing at Gilman, and I think we remember some really good Gilman teams and some good players that came from Gilman, but I don't know that it's the same, since Biff left and started St. Francis and everything like that. It's very different from a competition talent type standpoint. So I think he's going to have some adjustments to make when he gets to the Big Ten, but physically, he's got you watch him chase that guy down. That's not a play that a 210-pound guy should be able to make. And, he does that. He goes out and does a really good job. So I'm excited to see it. I'm curious if is he a boom bust guy? Is that a situation where we don't, can he just be a normal starter? I don't know. I think he'd be really, really good. Or I think that competition level, that lack of physicality might be something that he has to overcome in the long run. So one of the more intriguing prospects, and he's a very quiet guy. He does not talk. He's not, I know Ryan did an interview with him a couple of months ago and he was fantastic. There are guys that are quiet just because they don't feel like talking, and that's fine. But it'd be interesting to see that personality come out in the next couple of years.
I'm glad you brought up the physicality, because that was one of the things I was a little concerned when he committed watching his film. Some of those issues cropped up of, if he does have to play Sam, he's going to have to, even if he doesn't play Sam, if he's KJ Winston or if he's Dakari Nelson, he's going to be around the line of scrimmage. But it is interesting. I do kind of a tangential thing I want to bring up here is the conversation about safeties at Sam is not over. I know that Curtis Jacobs, and they have the talent right now to play those guys wherever they want. But Tyrese Mills, I saw him at Sam earlier this year. Dom DeLuca, as a joke, PFF lists Dom DeLuca as a safety. Not everyone got the memo that Dom DeLuca is a linebacker.
No, he's a nickel corner. You know that.
Yeah, exactly. He's the elite feat in the secondary. So it's a conversation we're going to have with Dakari Nelson and with Dejaun Lane going forward, that these guys, it's not over with Manny Diaz here being the defense coordinator, that they're going to play 3 traditional linebackers. As they recruit these guys, it could change.
And you've got time for that. You have time with Dakari Nelson. You've got time with Dejaun Lane to come in, start him at safety. If that's where they want to play, start him at safety. And if you feel these guys know where they're at. This is not a situation where position changes that are as subtle as safety to Sam outside linebacker are going to catch people off guard. So I think that's, you bring him in, you see if he can do it. If he can't do it, seems like you got a pretty good Sam prospect there, which is really what we're talking about with this 2024 class, in that you don't have an outside linebacker, and that might be the guy. I think it's sort of built into it. You're still going to recruit a guy like Elijah Newby or something like that, but it's sort of cooked into the way that they do things at Penn State, and they have since Franklin got here.
Yeah, I think that's a great point there. Let's move on to Luke Reynolds, because top 5 for fun. I apologize. This is not Luke Reynolds. This is Antoine Belgrave-Shorter. So, what do you think about Antoine Belgrave-Shorter so far this season? And one of those guys that Penn State is. I think you are a big fan of him, and we're not talking enough about Belgrave-Shorter for sure.
Yeah, higher than the services would have him. Penn State, and look, Penn State wants everybody rated higher. Let's not, I mean, let's not get
Right.
too caught up in that. But I do believe Belgrave-Shorter probably the most underrated guy in this class, and more ready to play at the next level than his teammate John Mitchell, who's really good as well. So he's been physical this year. He does some really good things as a tackler. It's been interesting because like they've played a lot of teams that have run the ball 40 times or whatever, and hasn't been an issue. Most of his highlights this year are him as a Wildcat quarterback running 2-point plays. So, take what you can from that. He's an athletic guy, good football instincts, but like we talk about lack of physicality with Dejaun Lane, I don't have that issue with Belgrave-Shorter, and it's why like you could see him being a safety eventually, like that. He's got cornerback skills, but he also is physical enough to be a safety. So that's sort of cooked into what you're doing as well. Like that helps everybody when you've got a corner that can play safety. Again, I think he's a 4-star guy. Like I think I don't really go out on the limb too often for guys that are like below that line to say that they should be there. But I like Belgrave-Shorter as a 4-star prospect, and I think he's a guy that Penn State, I've said it before, Penn State thinks that he's probably their best defensive back commit.
That's interesting.
That is very interesting. So I think that's something worth watching. I know he's from Florida. You got to stay on him. I'm sure there's other schools that he was down at the Swamp a couple of weeks ago. There are other schools that will be poking around because Mandarin is a really talented high school, and they're just going to be coaches there. And it's a long way from Florida. But, it seems like Penn State's done a really nice job with relationships there.
So let's get into then his teammate John Mitchell, because the comparison I think we've made before is plays a little bit like Kalen King. Maybe he's showing more physicality this year, but it just seems like that they haven't had as many opportunities for impact plays just based on their highlight film, because they're some of the stuff you're seeing him from offense, but coming in cornerback blitzes, quality defensive back. What have you seen from him, and what do you know about like the view of these two guys? Because you mentioned Belgrave-Shorter is the guy they like the best, but this is also a really good corner as well.
Yeah, both those guys. I mean, you look at it's kind of he's playing on the other side of Belgrave-Shorter, so you've got talent on both those sides, and they've got a 25 safety that's really good as well, and he's probably putting up the most highlights because they have to throw, teams that are going to throw against them are going to throw in the middle of the field. Mitchell's done a nice job of being physical. I don't get how Penn State, like, I don't know if the joke's on Penn State or something like that, but Penn State should not get 2 corners from Florida that are that good. Like,
yeah,
it's not, it doesn't make sense. Like,
and fits so well into the defense. I love the way these fit.
Kudos to Terry Smith for identifying, like they identified those guys early. Like, and they have some connections down there and it worked, but like, it's mind boggling when you take, if, you get both of those guys to the end of the cycle. And I'm saying that because they're from Florida. Like, I'm not saying that because there's anything like really cooking there, but like you get both those guys to the end of the cycle, you think, what's the catch here, man? Like what's going on? But I think they're both really good. I've been a big fan of John Mitchell from the start, and Belgrave-Shorter has really, really grown on me. I didn't see, I saw they lost this weekend, which is, see how that came about. I just haven't had time to dig into that, but really, really good, like really good players.